we had some star power in the fold at the Valspar Championship. Justin Thomas, a big part of the conversation through 2 rounds, and then disaster struck on Saturday. Rex, the level of concern for what we saw with JT's game, and that was on the heels of missing 2 of his previous 3 cuts leading into the week at the Valspar.
I would say it's twofold, George. One, the ball striking seems to still be coming around. He still seems to be moving in the right direction when you look at what he does tee to green. Certainly the strokes gained statistics stand out as compared to last year. He does seem to be moving in a better direction. And I'm always really careful when we talk about these stats on the PGA Tour because thanks to strokes gained, we can break them down really just down to the minute level and really dissect what a player's good at and what a player's not so good at. But I'm always careful to point out it's relative to the rest of the field. So you have 156 of the best players in the field last week at the Valspar Championship. And by comparison, his putting, at least on day 3, was objectively awful. It was probably objectively awful even at an amateur event because you look, he lost more than 7 strokes to the field that day. I mean, if you just sat and watched the coverage, which I did, you were taken by the idea he never looked comfortable on the greens. And Ryan Lav and I talked about this last night on the podcast. When you look at how we have dissected Scotty Scheffler over the last year, his putting stroke, everything he's done to get better, his work with his swing coach Randy Smith, his work with Phil Kenyon as a putting coach, his switch of putters, every week it seems like he is just grinding away on the range looking for answers. It seemed like he found some version of the answers at Bay Hill and then a week later at TPC Sawgrass. I'm not 100% sure because we don't hear about what JT is working on. And based on that performance last week, I will have a lot of alarm bells for no other reason than his next stop is probably going to be the Masters, and that's not a place you want to go looking for answers.
Speaking about looking for answers, Ryan,
Rex,
go ahead.
I certainly feel differently, just to Rex's point to button it up, than I did a month ago. When you think about Riviera, JT was gaining the most strokes on the field in his competitions over the past 6 months. I mean, in other words, he was playing better than anyone in the world, at least related to the players that he was playing against. He certainly regressed of late. The driver has cost him the last couple of events. Obviously, his putter continues to be a huge issue. But even in JT's best years, I mean, he was an average putter to slightly above average putter. And in fact, in some years, he was losing strokes to the game while still winning multiple times on the PGA Tour. There has to be a way to neutralize that, because I think the Players' Championship a couple weeks ago was the perfect example of that, where I don't think once Wyndham Clark and Brian Harman and Xander Schauffele were sitting around and thinking, what could I have done differently? There were not major things that they could have done differently to end up beating Scotty Scheffler. I mean, the margins are so small now and so thin at that elite level that JT has to find a way to sort of neutralize his putting deficiency at the moment if he wants to once again join the elite tier in golf.